Hi, and welcome to Unraveling the Thread.
I'm Morgan.
And I'm Margaret. On today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about a few different things. Also, first, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. If you remember from our introduction episode, we break our podcast down into 3 segments. So for our first segment, the pattern, we're going to kind of just discuss how we knew it was the right time to start our own business. It's different for everybody, so we're kind of going to dive into that. For our stitch, we're going to discuss our mock suits, what those are, what to expect, kind of top to bottom. And then for behind the seams, we're going to discuss how we, as a couple who have started a business, who work from home, kind of establish some boundaries between work life to establish that balance. So for our first segment, the pattern, we're going to discuss how we knew it was the right time for us to leave the jobs we were in and start this business and become entrepreneurs. So I'm kind of going to dive in and talk about where I was in life at the time, and then Morgan will hop in and kind of give her side of things. When I moved up to Charlotte, the company that I was working with at the time, the positions that were available were a lower level than what I had been working in Tampa. But I had been under the understanding that within a little bit of me working here, that I would then get the opportunity to apply to the position that I had worked in at Florida and then continue on through the ladder. And so I worked very diligently. I feel like I'm a pretty hard worker. I've got a good work ethic and continued to apply for these higher level positions, one of which the assistant manager position is what I had held in Florida, which I knew I could do. And basically what happened is I went through about 12 different interviews, each time apparently just narrowly avoiding getting the promotion. After the first couple, in fact, they even told me, you know what, don't do the assistant manager, just go out for the manager. I know you've got the experience. So that's what I did. And I continued to do these interviews. I asked for help from my current manager that I was working under, my assistant managers, sales reps, like the whole 9 yards to figure out what they were looking for. I did my homework. I feel like I interviewed pretty well, and I continued to get passed over for these promotions. And so after about 2 years of kind of working my butt off, being in this lower position that I knew that this company as a whole didn't even really want me in since I had the higher position in Florida, I talked with Morgan, and we kind of decided that enough was enough, that I didn't, I knew I was worth more, my self-worth, and so I decided to leave the company because we were in a kind of comfortable monetary position, financial position at the time.
And I believe that was June of that year?
Yeah, I left kind of right at the start of summer.
So while that had been going on, in the meantime, I had been working in a healthcare related position for about 6 years. And I had normally gone through phases where from year to year, normally around summertime, I would start to feel a little burned out. And so I would reduce my hours, lighten my client load a little bit. And then generally by fall, I was ready again, and I would expand my hours back out and keep going until the next year. And so this had been my pattern for the last probably 4 years that I worked with that company. And then COVID happened, and a lot of things shifted, as it did for many people. And when we came back from COVID, I was really burned out and just couldn't shake it. It was always there. And in fact, I ended up taking some of the specific offerings that I would do completely off the table because I felt like I wasn't in a good headspace to be offering that to clients at the time. So I had talked to Margaret about the fact that I was truly unhappy where I was. And I would wake up just dreading going in. And I would get there and I'd call her on my lunch break and be like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I am exhausted. My mental health was just really suffering, and it was just not great. And also some values for the company had changed, and I did not feel comfortable working under those values anymore. So January of, was it the year after you like quit your job? Mm-hmm. I told Margaret I needed an exit plan. Like I couldn't do this anymore. And so we started talking. We were like, okay, like we're going to figure this out. So we started researching the suit shop, and then kind of all the background that we would need for that. And at the same time, I started preparing myself for the fact that I was going to walk away from this job that I had initially really loved. That was a really well-paying job with health insurance. And that it was time for me to go a different direction. And so I ended up actually officially leaving the company in December of that year. So I did wait almost a full year, both to let us get some things established for the suit shop, but then also to give my boss and the company ample time to find my replacement. So it was one of those things that when I left in December, I felt relieved, very relieved.
Yeah.
I was very excited about the suit shop, probably too much so at that point, too high expectations at that point of what it was going to be like. And also some fear because we were both unemployed at that point, which had never been the plan ever. When we had talked about starting a business, the assumption had been we would have some money coming in somewhere.
Some sort of supplemental income.
Yes. And we had saved up, so we knew that we could go ahead and start this endeavor, but it was not an ideal situation for walking away from a outside perspective. Inside, it was the best decision. And to be frank, for me, that decision probably could have happened anytime in that last year. Yeah. And for you, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think you left at a good time? Or
yeah, no, I think, I mean, I was kind of getting tired of, I definitely felt taken advantage of because everybody, my assistant manager, my manager, the district manager, everybody knew the position that I had held in Florida. I had been an assistant manager for 4 years, 3-4 years. So I knew what they were doing. And so basically what happened is that my manager, my assistant manager kind of leaned more on me than on other employees, which I loved at the start of things, right? You always want to be the one that gets the little bit of extra work to show that you're a little bit more capable, responsible, etc. But after the 2 years and after, I think it would be different had I not done 12 different interviews. If I had done 1 or 2 and been passed up, okay, fine, like maybe I still need a little bit of work, but I did a lot of interviews. And so at that point, I was just feeling very kind of taken advantage of. They knew that I could do the work, so why kind of put me somewhere else if I'm kind of helping to kind of, shoulder this burden of this store. They kind of needed some help. So it was a double-edged sword because I did enjoy kind of being that like, oh no, I know how to do that. You don't have to teach me, I can do all this because I was that position. But after 2 years and all of the no's, it was one of those, okay, now like I just kind of feel like it was rubbing me the wrong way. So I think same deal. Like I would call her on lunch and just be like, this is what is happening today. Like do, and just complaining. Cause yeah, it just kind of got to be a little much.
And I feel like you weren't supported at the end. Like you were essentially told that your district manager didn't go to bat for you for the next level up.
I was down to 1 of 2. I had finally gotten a follow-up interview, and it was between me, who had then worked for this company and now 6 years up here in the Charlotte area for 2, and this person from outside the company. And apparently the district manager who I reported to, I don't want to throw any shade or whatever, but yes, the story I got when I did my exit interview for leaving the company was that he just didn't have enough ammo to go to bat for me, to the higher ups, to be like, yes, this is the person then that we need to put in this position. And that definitely hurt and shocked me because I don't really know what else I could have done. So yeah, it was just both of us, I think, at that point in time, were at positions in our life where we could have kept working at those both, respective companies, but we were just kind of miserable.
We were done.
And yeah, and that's not a fun way to go through life.
No, and I think it did teach both of us. Or I guess I'll speak for me. That mental health is very important.
Absolutely.
And you do spend a lot of time doing your job and going to work, and it's not the place to be miserable.
Yeah.
And if that's suffering, it impacts the rest of your life as well,
right,
in all areas. And so leaving, although scary for different reasons for both of us and definitely different paths than what we had initially thought, was 100% the way to go.
Yeah. And so I think kind of in tying this in to our pattern theme, a lot of people always ask us, like, how did you know it was the right time? When is the right time? And I think for us, at least, much like a lot of big life decisions, when do you decide to have a kid? When do you decide to start a business? When you decide to get another pet? There's never really a perfect time. Something is always going to crop up in life, whether it's health issues, money issues, whatever it is. And so we just, even though, like Morgan said, neither of us then were employed outside of potentially starting this suit shop, but we had no idea if we were even going to get clients, what kind of the reception for that would be. We just knew that we couldn't continue working the jobs we were at, and financially we were in a good place at the time. She had done a lot of research into not only just, starting a business, but, finding a manufacturer, like all of the steps that went into that, some of which we'll talk on later podcast episodes about. But it was one of those, we both talked about it and decided that we were kind of at that split fork in the road. We couldn't keep going with our current business. So do we try to find other jobs, or do we go ahead and dive headfirst into this so that we could really put all of our effort into this? And that's what we decided to do. All right, so for our second segment, the stitch, we're going to talk about mock suits. In the business, these may also be referred to as based fittings. For us, since we did talk about our procedure and the steps of how we create a suit for you in the last episode, that first step, doing the consultation and then getting measurements, leads to a mock suit. So we, as business owners in the fashion industry, realize that the fashion industry creates a lot of waste. So part of what we partnered with this specific manufacturer for was they did these based fittings. They use scrap fabric from other projects to create these mock suits. And what happens is we get your measurements, we send them off to the manufacturer, they get all this scrap material, and they make it. And so that's why it doesn't look super fancy. You can see all the threads, all the seams. You kind of just have outlines of pockets. There's not a real pocket there. But what we have discovered in doing our process the way that we do is this gives our clients an actual physical item to try on, which helps with measurements. If you're going through a weight loss journey, even if, things happen. So it helps us tweak them. If you decide that actually you kind of want a little bit of a wider leg pant, or you want a little bit of a more form-fitting pant. Same with the jacket. You want a little bit looser, a little bit longer. Having that physical item to be able to try on really helps our clients visualize then what they want their final piece to look like.
And we do these mock suits for jackets, pants, and vests. And this has been really important. We've mentioned previously that some of our clients have never worn a suit before. So getting to try this on, they understand kind of the feel of, okay, so I'm wearing a shirt under this, vest and this jacket and then these pants, and here are my shoes. They get kind of a feel of like, okay, this is what it's going to be like. And then from there can make the decision of, actually, I don't really want a vest, or I want 2 buttons instead of 1 on the jacket, or like Margaret said, changing up the style. So this has been incredibly helpful. We always tell our clients that this is not pretty. It's not meant to be pretty, and that we do expect to do tweaks. This is the point of the mock suit for us. And it has really been, for our business, and I think for our clients, a really big game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been something that a lot of our clients have really found
Appreciated,
helpful
yeah.
and appreciated 100%. And it's made it much easier for us too, just to be able to have some of the conversations earlier on in the process that we don't want to wait till the end to be asking, like, okay, did you sure you want your pants that way? You know, or anything like that. So this has been something that we've not always done. It evolved as we kind of adjusted and grew and made some tweaks. But we love it and we find it very valuable, and so do they. So this is something that we can't recommend enough for our clients to do. And one thing that's really nice as well is that the cost of this mock suit actually is treated like a deposit. So it goes towards their final pieces and their final items, which is also nice for those clients who are a little bit more budget conscious.
I think it also helps our clients during that second appointment where they come in to try on the mock suit, because we kind of create a standard suit for the customizations specifically. Because as Morgan noted, so many of our clients come in either never having worn a suit before or not knowing when we say custom, we truly mean top to bottom, head to toe, which we will go through on another podcast as we continue these podcasts to discuss all of our options. And so what we've done with the mock suit is create kind of a standard blazer and pant kind of customizations so that they can see those as well. So whether it's the lapel being kind of the notched lapel, like she said, whether a lot of times these come with one button, so if you have a longer torso, then deciding you actually want two buttons, but it gives them kind of that visualization so that as we walk through the customizations, we also have something to point to that they've tried on and seen on their body to go, oh, you know what? I actually want a different kind of lapel, or I want a longer lapel, so that it helps them make those decisions that they might not have thought about before but didn't know were options. So yeah, I think between the fit and the customization aspect of our business, it has head over heels helped clients immensely. So our last segment, the behind the scenes, today we're going to talk about, for us, being able to set some of those work-life boundaries and what that looks like for us as a couple who run our own business together, whose business happens to be located right behind our house. So one of the things I think that both of us coming out of those more stressful jobs really decided was that we really wanted to have kind of this cutoff, because it is so easy when you start your own business to just think about it 24/7, right? At breakfast, an idea comes to you late at night. You find, your brain's been running through it all day, and it finally comes up with this great idea, an answer, solution to a problem you guys had encountered, something. And that's great. But we also wanted to make sure that it didn't totally consume our lives, that we still had time for us as a couple.
And this came about because I am definitely more of a dreamer when it comes to the business. I'm always thinking about the next thing to do. My brain is constantly like coming up with ideas, especially in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would be, it'd be late at night, and we'd be relaxing for the evening, and I would turn to Margaret and start talking about the business.
And some of those things that needed, it wasn't just like, oh, how about this? It would then be like okay, and here are the steps I want to do, and what do we do to make all of those steps possible? Like, it was not just how's this idea, how's that sound, but this super detailed, let's figure out how to make these dreams possible. And I loved that about Morgan. I still do. She is the one that is creating those kind of long-term goals for our business, and those big things to achieve. But at 10:30 at night, I don't really want to be talking shop. I just kind of want to enjoy the evening. So yes, it was an important conversation, and I think kind of where our strong communication skills as a couple, personal, come into play. That we sat down and had a conversation, and now I think has also been really important that we do have some other supplementary jobs to go, okay, I know that you're going to be gone from 9:15 to 8 at night, so yes, I might need a couple hours of suit shop time after I come home. But we've really done, I think, a good job of kind of establishing some boundaries of going, okay, before the first cup of coffee, please don't talk about the business, you know?
Which, I mean, to be fair, was never one of my concerns because
That
I
was,
can't do anything before my first cup of coffee in the morning. But
that was
yes.
more me. Yeah, yeah. The early morning ones were me, the late night ones were her. But yes, so kind of this like, and if we needed to, you know, kind of go, okay, we're gonna, you know, if you really have this thing that's been running through your head all day, absolutely, let's talk about it. But we're gonna give it kind of a timer of like, you know, if it's late at night, I absolutely don't mind talking about it. We want to make this business successful, think about the next big thing for us, but also, you know, we want to have a good work-life balance, right?
Which I think also when we talk about our communication style having been an important factor in that, that has continued throughout our business and our relationship. We're always working on that. But without being able to communicate as openly and honestly as we can with each other, we would really struggle doing this business. It is important for us to be able to voice things that we think are going well, things that we think that need to be tweaked or sometimes scrapped completely, to be able to talk about work balance.
I was to say, yeah, I think earlier in the formation of, I mean, you did a lot of research, finding, you know, like I said, finding the manufacturer, figuring out legally how to set us up as a business, what kind of business to set us up as. All of that, she loves to research, and so I did not step on her toes. And I said, great, thank you. Work hard. If you have some issues, you know, I will help you out. And then as the business progressed, and she got a second job, I continued to work from home for my other job. So that was easier for me to then do some of our other chores for the suit shop. So I wrote our blogs for our website. I'd update our website. I'd respond to customer emails, client emails, etc. And so, you know, I think in doing that, I kind of started taking on a lot of the work. But then after a while, things kind of balanced out because I was definitely as you started your job. And so once we kind of got to a new kind of you figuring out how you would feel physically from that job, it is a more physical job, that then we did sit down and have another conversation and go, okay, you know, I've been doing a lot and I'm kind of feeling a little overwhelmed and sometimes I feel like things are slipping through the cracks. So what can I kind of now help kind of pass on to you or pass back and forth? And so, yeah, I think we continue to have conversations about not only us as a couple, what we're doing outside of M&M Suit Shop, but then definitely what tasks we're taking on for M&M Suit Shop. And it continues to change and evolve as the business changes and evolves.
And that's important for both of us. I don't want either one of us to get burned out doing this. This is something that we both enjoy doing. And so I think being able to sit down and say, hey, you know, this is getting to be too much, or I feel like I am having to do, you know, a decent portion more than you, let's fix it, is really, really vital. Absolutely. For us.
The last little bit that we do to kind of help make sure and check in that we're all on the same page is we do weekly check-ins. We both have planners, and so we kind of sit down at the start of each week. We figured out whether that's Sunday, whether it's Monday, whatever kind of Saturday, whatever works for us. But basically before kind of the new week starts, we sit down with our planners and we figure out what we have to do as a family, you know, any appointments, any grocery shopping, you know, errands, fun things, you know, whatever it might be. And then we figure out what the suit shop needs, whether it's more blogs written, podcasts recorded, opening appointments for clients, meeting with clients, etc. And we kind of really sit down and take a moment to communicate about that and kind of expectations and kind of figuring out how that all is going to play into our day-to-day life. I think it does help that the suit shop is in the building behind our house because it's not like we are then spending 30-45 minutes commuting in and out of Charlotte on the daily. So it does mean that we can kind of shift a little bit quicker into some of those differing roles. But yeah, I think it's been really helpful.
And I think along with that, we don't necessarily, sometimes we do, but we don't always say like, okay, Tuesday is the day that we're going to do this. Sometimes it's just by the end of this week, these things need to get done. And we generally talk about which one of us is doing them, or if we're both doing something. Obviously, there are tasks that require both of us, like this podcast. But there are some times that we sit down and we are like, okay, this is absolutely the day that we're working on X, Y, or Z. And to Margaret's point, doing that at the same time that we're doing our personal lives for the week just makes things flow a lot better. We are on the same page. We know what to expect. We can adjust anything. And so by the end of the week, we both basically trust that the other person is getting what they need to get done for the shop done. And then we do that each week. So if it's something's come up and it's been crazy, we adjust and are able to tweak and move on, making sure we're still meeting our goal.
That's it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Check out our next episode coming out in a couple weeks. This has been Margaret.
And Morgan.
I'm so used to her saying Morgan first. Margaret and Morgan on Unraveling the Thread. And remember, real women wear pants.